Welcome to the Close the Chapter podcast. I am Kristen Boyce, a licensed marriage and family therapist with a private practice, Pathways to Healing Counseling. Through conversations, education, strategies, and shared stories, we will be closing the chapter on all the thoughts, feelings, people, and circumstances that don't serve you anymore and open the door to possibilities and the real you. You won't want to miss an episode, so be sure to subscribe. Welcome to this week's Close the Chapter podcast. I am so grateful you're here to grow, evolve, open your heart, learn more about yourself and how to have healthier relationships. Today's episode is for you. If someone comes to you and tells you how they feel, or maybe they're processing or venting, whether it's your kid, your spouse, your friend, a coworker, and you want to solve their problems and tell them what worked for you or what they can do to fix it. What we do know is most people don't want that. They just want you to listen, really validate, empathize. That's all they want. I've learned this over time with my kids. They do not want me to fix it. So are you a serial fixer? You just can't help yourself. You just want to help them. Your intentions are pure. You want to help other people. And so you often will share, here's what worked for me, or here's what I think you should do. It is so important to identify your pattern if this is you. And today's episode is going to help you because my guest wrote a book about serial fixing. And she says, support, don't solve. Those are her words. Let support, don't solve be your mantra. So when you want to fix it, you can have something else that you remember. Support, don't solve in your head. So let me introduce you to my guest. Leah Marone grew up in Carmel, Indiana. Hey, that's where I'm from. And is a psychotherapist, Yale clinical instructor, and corporate mental wellness consultant with over 20 years of experience. A former Division I athlete, she specializes in high achievers struggling with imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and performance anxiety. Leah has conducted over 20,000 therapy sessions and contributed to Psychology Today, Newsweek, and The Atlantic. She works with organizations on burnout prevention, boundary setting, and emotional intelligence. A sought-after speaker, Leah has presented her Support, Don't Solve framework to leaders nationwide. Her new book, Serial Fixer, is being released on November 11th, exploring the hidden patterns of overfunctioning and how to break free. We talk about what is serial fixer. We give a lot of examples and then how to begin to break free and how to respond without solving someone's problem. It is really a helpful episode. Share it with those that maybe try to do this to you and solve things, or maybe your fellow friends or family members that also do this pattern, have this pattern. And let's do this work together. Let's grow and evolve together. There's nothing more satisfying than two people or more doing their own independent work, inner child work, and committed to having a growth mindset. It is powerful to connection and lifelong, meaningful, purpose-filled relationships. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Leah. Welcome to this week's Close the Chapter podcast. Are you someone that likes to offer advice or fix it for other people? Raise your hand. When someone wants to tell you how they feel, you want to give them like, oh, this is what you need to do. Solutions. This is the episode for you. I am so excited to have found my guest today. I saw her book title come up and I'm like, I need to meet her. This is like a perfect topic for all of my listeners. So Leah, welcome to the Close the Chapter podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Kristen. I'm so excited.
Your book title, Serial Fixer, hooked me at the very beginning. When your agent posted it, I was like, oh my gosh, everyone needs this book. So tell me what inspired you to write it.
Oh, well, I think I've just seen, not only just in my clinical practice, but just all over, just people kind of subscribing and claiming this role of prematurely trying to fix and solve and accommodate. And don't get me wrong, like this comes from a good place generally, but you can see where when this is done and done prematurely, and you're kind of like taking stock and ownership in all of these things, in all of these people's hurdles and problems and things around you, it's just recipe for imbalance and overextending and exhaustion and sometimes even resentment.
A lot of times resentment because, like, well, I told you what you to do, or I told you so. And people don't like that. And then we don't like how we feel. So, first of all, I think it's so amazing that you grew up in Carmel. I grew up in Carmel, Indiana. What are the chances that your book title, I was like, oh, Serial Fixer. And now here we are
Both greyhounds.
talking, both Greyhounds, which is our mascot for our high school. So, any other fellow Carmel folks listening, welcome. And everybody else, welcome. So, when you became a therapist, what was the number one thing that for you, like, pulled you into the profession?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, I will say my mother was going through grad school when I was, I think, in elementary school, and she was getting her MSW, and then she became a licensed clinical social worker. So just even seeing her as a child and preteen going through her clinicals and her internships and just talking about therapy and her opening a practice, I was like, wow, this is really neat and pretty diverse in terms of just what you can do in this field. And for me, I battled pretty intensely with like performance anxiety when it came to sports and just have a fierce inner critic and was told just consistently, like, just forget about it. Just
Mm.
smile, just play harder, kind of mute that part of you. And I think I was always fascinated with that piece of me, trying to just shove it down, honestly, and be critical of the anxiety that I was feeling, the high expectations. And so I not only lived it, but then when someone would create space for me and allow me to kind of get in tune with those parts, it was just like, wow, that was such a gift. And I loved when I was able to kind of give that gift to other people. And I'm sure you experienced this too, where it's such a privilege to be able to be in that rawness and real time and vulnerability and kind of create that space for someone. And so I was not only drawn to the vulnerability piece of it and the true essence, I think, of therapy and being human and the rawness, but also just the diversity and learning through other people's stories and all the amazing things that our clients teach us.
It's so funny. My mom was getting her master's in elementary school too to become a therapist at
Oh,
LCSW.
wow.
Like, this is wild because you don't hear that very often.
No.
My mom worked at Koala, which was an addiction center before it became Fairbanks here in town, which is an addiction center. So it's so funny. And that's where she did her internship. I digress. So kind of growing up, watching your mom, my mom psychoanalyzed. Your mom might not have, but you can't take that out of us. Like, it's not psychoanalyzed. It's just being curious. There's a keen curiosity for people and their stories. So when you're writing this book, you came up with a 5-step kind of framework for people that are serial fixers. Let's dive in. Where does someone begin? How do you define a serial fixer? And then where does someone begin to work on it?
Right. And it's interesting because I do find that there is this correlation with people that tend to have a higher EQ, like emotional intelligence, or able to read a room or a face very quickly, kind of have high levels of empathy and compassion. I mean, let's be honest, generally, and I'm in this category too, like, aren't very good at boundaries. We're very good at like preaching them, saying, well, you got to take care of yourself before you take care of other people, or you look this, or you do that. We lead with that empathy and compassion. But then for ourselves, it's like a whole different script. And I think serial fixers, we come from a good place generally, but it is that filling that gap, trying to accommodate, fix, solve, soothe. And also it feeds the ego with, I have a purpose here. Here's a sense of connection. This person needed me. I'm going to insert myself and kind of be this to everyone else so that I feel that connection, am stimulated, have that structure, but don't necessarily have to go inward and do the work with me. And so it's a very distinct imbalance, if you will. And you talk about boundaries, and a lot of people think it's just a matter of saying no, like, just say no to this, just say no to that. Just like, I was told, just forget about it, just silence those voices. And logically, it sounds wonderful. We're like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you. But then when we have to execute it, we have something else internally that rises, like our internal pleaser, our internal critic, our internal rescuer. And so back to your question about where do we start? I think in school, through when we were being educated, we learned, and I think we learned probably even more once we got into practice, but not taking false ownership of other people's things, being that support for them, but not jumping in to solve, to soothe our own discomfort and to confirm that we have a purpose and that we're good at what we do. And so I think support, don't solve is just that. It's how do we still lead with empathy and compassion, but not go into this like urgent kind of almost pull to fix and solve so they're okay and then I can be okay.
This is so big for so many people. So many people. We feel like, oh, I like the feeling of being needed and wanted because that feels good. Like I feel like I'm creating a meaning and a purpose and I'm making a difference. So it's almost like you get that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Would you say, like, from this, oh, they need me and that feels good. They want my advice. They want my support. How does someone begin to just like break that?
Yes. I kind of think of it as you're almost at a T in the road, right? And when kind of that fixer comes into gear, that's when we prematurely relate. That's when we out of the gate give advice. We fill in kind of, or we just go 5 steps ahead and make assumptions. Oh, this is what you should do. Or, oh, that happened to me 5 years ago. Or my uncle had that. We go into this fixer mode and the space that we originally maybe went in to create is gone. It's changed. And so, in order to avoid that and to keep ownership with that person while you're still leading with empathy, you're still supporting, you're still there. But it starts with validation. It starts with keeping that ownership with them and letting them know I'm working hard to kind of decode what you're saying to me verbally and what you're saying to me non-verbally. And that could be a simple eye contact. That could be exactly what you're doing with kind of the head nods. I feel that you're with me. I feel that you're working, trying to decode. And that right there is, I think, kind of that you're turning right instead of turning left. You're turning in to kind of say, I'm here, I'm creating space for you. I'm going to validate first. I'm going to still lead with that empathy. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to be curious. But you're keeping that ownership with them so that that person can get the repetitions in and the processing skills in to build that self-trust and problem-solving skills that many of us rob each other of, you know?
I think it's big time. I think especially as parents, we can rob our kids because we're like, well, let me just tell you what I think you should do instead of them sitting in the discomfort of rumbling through it because we're so uncomfortable. We don't want them to have to go through what we went through or for them to feel it bad or shame or fear. So do you see that people want to fix other people's emotions? Like, oh, you feel sad, so I want to make you happy.
Absolutely. And you see, too, you brought up such a good point with parenting, because I think we have these strong associations that many of us have created from a very young age. If I don't do this, if I don't soothe my child, if I don't go above and beyond, if I don't kind of call the teacher, do this and do these things so that my child doesn't feel this stress, then I'm not a good parent. And so we have these associations of like, if I can't soothe this person, if I can't fix, if they don't come to me, then I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good enough parent. I'm not a good enough leader. And so these associations are super rigid, but you can see where even if someone were to tell us like, hey, mom, let me try to fix this on my own. Logically yeah, you're like, yes, that makes a lot of sense. But in real time, there's distress, there's discomfort. My kid is not okay. So I must be doing something wrong or I'm not a good mom. So let me jump in and fix rather than validate and meet that situation where it is and allow my kids to get some repetitions in.
Yeah, you got to get the reps in because we have to get the reps in or we're not going to let them do it. So if I don't let myself get uncomfortable, I'm not going to be okay with them being uncomfortable. Do you think that's the first step is like really you got to get your reps in before you're going to be able to let go of this sense of responsibility?
It does. It takes practice that you're kind of rewiring something, but you got to really check where your ego comes into play. Am I making this about me? Is this disguised as compassion? Is this something where I'm leading with all of these fixing energy to try to soothe my own discomfort and confirm for myself that I'm good enough?
Yes. Okay. So the 5 steps. So we start with kind of an awareness. Like, where would we start? Awareness of when you're doing it. Like, what's the pattern to you starting to want to fix it? Like, where do people begin?
I think one thing you can really kind of collect some data with yourself is even if you're casually talking with a friend, even when you're in conversations, just kind of acknowledge or kind of take notice and be mindful of, do I interrupt? Do I immediately relate? Do I immediately say, oh my gosh, just dump him, girl, or just do this, or I did this. Like if you start to go in and kind of almost go to step 10 again before you haven't even really concluded step 1. And again, this doesn't come from a necessarily malicious place. This comes from a good place generally, but it also, you can see where it shifts everything. And so just calling yourself out of, even if you in real time hear yourself doing that, just pausing and saying, I'm sorry, continue, like finish, tell me more. And so it's really about keeping that ownership with that person, keeping the energy with that person. And I do think that validation of the head nod, the eye contact, the tell me more, the, oh my gosh, that sounds like an incredibly stressful week, the paraphrasing, all of that kicks you into this gear where you're like, I'm actually practicing active listening skills. I am actually still there with this person and putting a little bit of a damper on my brain's need to frantically go ahead, nip this, tie this up prematurely, really, and make it about me. So I think that validation is the first out of the gate. And then we kind of move into that empathy or kind of that compassion still of if someone is, this is about too, Kristen, when someone is sharing something that is a hurdle, a problem, something that is emotional. This isn't a concrete conversation like, where's the printer? Oh, let me validate you and explore. That's you'd answer directly. This is something where you're like, wow, I tend to have this conversation with this person often, or I can tell that this person is really struggling with this, or this is something that they want to really process. They don't know the answer to it yet. That kicks you into that gear where you start with validation. Then you lead with that empathy phase. And that's not, again, making it a therapy session, but it's just kind of letting them know, like, I'm trying very hard to understand where you're coming from without maybe putting all of my own filters into it prematurely. And then we kind of move into the inquire phase, where that's where you're asking questions and tell me more. Or like, well, what do you feel like your options are at this point? Or what would it look like if this? Or you're helping them kind of carve out some of that momentum to get some of those repetitions in and think creatively while keeping the ownership with themselves. It works wonders with kids. And I have 2 teenage girls, and I know that if they were hearing this and they were asked, what does your mother always say? And they'd probably roll their eyes and say, what are your options? And I do. And I've had to train myself because it's a hell of a lot easier to email the teacher or to just call the mom and make all the plans and do all the things. It's just easier. It's done. I can check it off and go to my next thing. But I'm robbing then my girls of the repetitions needed for them to go through the processing skills involved with coordinating things, with being direct with their teacher, with that uncomfortable level of asking. And so that inquire phase of at this stage, what do you think your options are? Or like, what do you think looks best? Or what do you think you're going to do? That keeps it with them. I'm still there, but they have to do the work.
Yes, I love this. I have 2 teen daughters too. Here we are again. We're like, okay, more commonalities. I think one of the things that people want to seek, like you said, this validation and to get a certain response from somebody. What do you think the response they're looking for is? When we want to fix it, we're looking for like a feedback loop. And what do you think that is?
I think, again, that kind of calms our inner critics and inner pleasers and inner rescuers to confirm for us, like, see, I'm good at this. See, this person needs me. See, if I can clear this off my plate, I can move on to the next thing. And so I do think a lot of it is pretty self-soothing and self-fulfilling. And we're not executing kind of that patience and the beauty, I think, of truly conversing with someone.
And I also think, I'm wondering what you think, it sets up like a parent-child dynamic. Like I'm telling you what you need to do, or this is what I did, and this is what it's like a parenting dynamic versus we're 2 adults having a conversation or 2 for friendships. I think it can, or relationships. I see it specifically in romantic relationships where one person steps in and they're like, this is what you need to do. But now they're parenting this other person. You can see it so quickly. And I think it can just start tipping the scale on this. We're in this together. And then it creates disconnection ultimately. I've seen this over and over and over. If you're always trying to solve other people's problem, that's not what they want.
No, and you nailed it because I think it kind of creates these micro codependencies and imbalances. And you'll see it all the time. You brought up just like intimate relationships or partnerships where it's almost like someone gets baited left and right. And it's maybe not, again, like deliberate. But if you think about, do we have extra shampoo? And there's a direct question. Instead of the other partner just saying, no, I think we're out. It's almost like the serial fixer we're here. Do we have shampoo? And think, oh God, all right, I'll drop what I'm doing. Go check. No, we don't. Shit, I got to run to the store. Got to do X, Y, and Z. And see, I'm not appreciated because I'm doing this and I'm exhausted. And it's like, you just jumped like 15 steps ahead and you were totally baited. And now you're resentful because in your life, you are a serial fixer left and right. Someone can say they're hungry and you might just answer with like, are you? Yeah, it is getting close to dinner. No. You got up, you started preparing the meal, even though you were going to eat 2 hours later. And now you're rearranging everything and you're resentful and you're cranky and everyone looks at you and then you're thinking, what? I mean, that is the serial fixer to the T. It's like quit over accommodating, quit assuming, quit filling in the gaps, just answer the question, keep what's yours, let them keep what's theirs. And if they need to ask a follow-up question, give them the space to do that.
Oh my gosh, these examples are like, yay, ding, 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 because that's what resonates with people. What other examples are some that are pretty, I would say, universal that you've seen often? Because I think someone could see themselves in that example completely. Like if someone says, well, we're out of bottled water, I'm making this up. Like you just said, then I've got to run to the store and I don't have time for that. Now I'm interrupting my date. Like that was a great example.
But you see if the pleaser, like logically, someone might be hearing that and being like, oh my gosh, that's totally me. But why do I feel the need to go get the water? They can wait or they can go get it. But our inner pleaser pops up and is like, if you don't get that water, you're not working hard enough. You're not being a good partner. You're not providing all the things that your family needs when they need it. Like, I'm questioning you. And we don't want to do that inside. Like, we don't want that internal conflict. We don't want to ruffle those feathers. But you can see where those like protective parts of us, our internal bodyguards, if you will, they pop up and they sabotage us. And so it is kind of aligning with them, understanding them. And you ask, like, what are some other examples? I think it happens all the time, not only in parenting, but think about in the workplace. I work with so many people that are in very highly empathetic fields, and they are constantly fixing prematurely. A colleague will come in and be like, I'm swamped. Oh my gosh, this project. And instead of validating, like, oh, I know it seems like you have had a lot on your plate this week, or like this project has been a lot, they'll immediately go into like, you know what, let me do that part. I'll just email so-and-so. I'll stay with you late tonight. And it's like, that's very kind and very nice, but you can see if you're operating like that on every level in every relationship because you want people to like you, you don't want to be viewed as lazy or that you're not a good team player, or that people around you are struggling and you're not, so what's wrong with you? That's the stuff that we have to be in tune with. And we're not meeting people where they're at. We're fixing and we're over-accommodating and we're filling in the gaps.
I think you said something too at the beginning as you are a Division I athlete and you were taught to push through. And no matter what, you get it done. You get to the basket, you kick into the net, whatever. You get it done and you push past the parts that are saying, I'm injured or whatever it is. And so this pushing past bodyguard part that some people have, not everybody has it, but pushing past, how does that play into being a serial fixer?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think when we push past and we try to mute those parts of us often, it's almost like a toddler. If you have a toddler at home or hell, even a teenager, and you're ignoring them, they're going to get real creative real fast. Right? They're going to start throwing things. They're going to be this. They're going to be obnoxious. They're going to like until you finally look over and you're like, what? These parts of us too that don't feel heard, that are trying to protect us from something. They'll get creative. They'll get louder. They'll sabotage moments when we're trying to rest and recover and be present or sleep. And that's a great indicator that we aren't creating enough space. We're falling victim to which most of us are today of like distractions, band-aids, pacifiers. Let me just multitask the hell and fill every crack and crevice with something that's stimulating or consuming. And so these parts of us, they'll be creative. They'll find ways. And so it's about really not just shoving these protective, annoying, or really loud parts of us that we wish would just go away. It's about pausing and actually appreciating the work that they're doing and what they're protecting us from, and trying to soothe them and work with them. And so for me, if I would have had this knowledge, I think as an athlete, and my critic would pop up and say things like, what if you don't start? What if you mess up? What if everyone watching the game zeroes in on you and thinks this girl's on the team? Very egocentric thoughts of like, seriously, not everyone's just looking at me. But my critic was like on me. Just what if you fail? What if all these things? And I'd play tight. I wasn't connected. I was not present. And I tried everything under the sun to try to shove this part down, to get rid of it, to erase it. When in reality, if I just took a moment to really try to understand what it was trying to prevent and protect me from, and acknowledge all the work and overtime that she was doing, and align with it and soothe with it and get repetitions in and use my resilience and fact check it, it would be in a lot better place as an athlete.
Yes, I think that makes sense. I feel like the serial fixer is a big protector part to protect us against shame, rejection, criticism, judgment, abandonment. And so if I can just play this special role of the one that has all the answers, or I'll solve your problems, or I'll help you, I'll caretake you. that then you feel more secure, lovable, worthy, and enough. Do you feel like that summarizes it?
Yeah, beautifully. You're relevant.
You're relevant.
You have a purpose. You have all these things, which makes complete sense. But I think the serial fixer then forgets to add themselves to the equation. They want all those external structure. If I can be this to this person, be 5 steps ahead here, do that. I'm a good mom. I'm a good parent. I'm a good leader. I'm a good, all the things, confirms all of it. But that takes all the real estate. So there's not enough left for me. So I have trouble sleeping. I'm anxious. I can't really allow myself to be present. I don't know how to do it. I'm out of shape with it. And so I kind of am getting my dopamine hits through other people and maybe that external validation. And I'm out of shape when it comes to me.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big part. I mean, the fixer part is, do you feel like it gets developed in childhood? Where do you think the serial fixer begins?
Yeah. It really starts, I think, with those internal bodyguards. Those, I think, really start adapting in those protective parts in childhood. Kind of an inner pleaser, inner critic, inner rescuer based on dynamics, based on, unfortunately, past traumas, based on where you sniff out originally that you can get connection, you can feel that purpose. And I think we then are like, that's it. And we latch onto it like hell and we just move forward. And sometimes it's just way too much. And you can see where that structures and kind of helps define and create these deep associations where maybe we're not giving ourselves the same gift.
Yes. What would be the one thing you would tell someone if they're a serial fixer and they're like, this is all, yes, yes, Leah, I'm a serial fixer. I know this is like a big question. The one thing that they start with would need to focus on.
I think the tagline, just support, don't solve, like going into things like, what's my role? Support, don't solve. I think that's just a really good thing to remember that will kind of create that foundation. But it's more so too. I'm inviting you, if you're hearing this and you're thinking, I'm really good at creating space for people, I think. And I love it when people open up to me, but I don't really open up to other people because I don't know how to do that. Or I do tend to feel resentment, or I do need to feel needed. It gives me that sense of purpose. Like, these are not necessarily bad things, and you're not alone. I think it's just time to kind of kick you into gear of like, okay, I do need to start doing some of the work and really kind of stepping back and going internally to see what these tendencies, this fixer pattern, these roles that I occupy in relationships, what are they trying to protect? What am I not in sync with me? And this is just kind of how I'm operating, and I'm exhausted.
Yes, I see. If I know I have listeners that are parents, we mentioned that, but I see it with them the most that they have a real hard time holding space and empathy and validating and listening and say, tell me more about that, because they see if you only did this, then all of this would be eliminated and you'd feel better. Let me just help you. So I'll solve this with one little piece of advice, and this could all be, you'll feel better. It seems like that's such a pull. How do parents break this? This is what I see a lot with clients. I mean, they're like, I did it again. I'm having such a hard time breaking this.
I think most parents, and again, I'm making an assumption, but I think most of us, one of our main goal is to create self-aware adults that are able to take risks and have a high level of self-trust and be able to function for the most part in healthy relationships. And in order for us to do that and be a huge factor, which we are in our children's lives and our teens' lives, they have to practice this. They have to get their reps in. And so when we are kind of taking that, controlling that, again, it's sometimes that control disguised as compassion. We're ridding them of that practice and the self-trust and their ability to kind of soothe and work with their own internal bodyguards. And so I think it is kind of starting with some of those basics of just pausing, of just saying like, huh, or tell me more, or that was a rough day. Think about that. And if you're short fused and you go off a lot, which we all are guilty of sometimes, but if this is a consistency, that's when it's like calling yourself out and saying, what really am I trying to protect myself of? What am I not trusting within myself? There's a lack of self-trust that you're projecting, I think, onto the dynamic with your child.
Yeah. I think this is the most important work we can do individually, not only if you're not a parent, but I think this is really important work because if we do this for other people, especially kids, you're stunting their development. Like you're prolonging what they need to be learning in real time. You're stunting their development. And that is on us. It's kind of a harsh way to say it. And Again, your intention isn't to harm them. That's the last thing we want to do. We're not harming them, but we're stunting their internal development. Okay, I'm shifting gears because I love this question because I'm a book person. Love books. So, what are some of the best books you've read that have had the biggest impact in your life?
Oh my gosh.
It's a big question.
I love like Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. I love that one by Lori Gottlieb. Did I say her name right? I'm looking here at my shelf of all these books I've recently read. I'm a book person too. I love anything by Glennon Doyle and Brene Brown and kind of those people in our realms. I'm trying to think of the last thing I read. I like The Body Keeps the Score as well. There's just so
So
many different,
many.
yeah, so many books that I think I love Boundaries too by Nadra. There's just a lot. I think anything that you can pick up that is really going to give you that like, aha, or like a different filter. And just again, you walk away feeling like, I feel like I have a little bit of a deeper connection with myself. Like that's money.
Yes, I know. There's so many good resources out there. And we'll link some of these in the show notes too, but get Serial Fixer first. Is there anything in the book that you feel like it's important or with this topic that we didn't cover that you're like, ooh, this is really an important piece?
I think I really try to go, of course, it's about external boundaries and internal boundaries, but I really try to take self care and spin it in a different way because I think we're beyond kind of just the definition of like self care, like go for a walk and bubble baths. Like we're beyond all that. I think self care, again, is just more of those consistent efforts where we're creating pockets of space for ourselves and refraining from multitasking and really viewing them as times that we are looking to recover and rejuvenate. And I think where we're missing, I really hone in on this in one part of the book about just capitalizing on our transitions throughout the day. Because if you think about this is something we all consistently have. We have dozens of them. Whether we're just walking from the family room to the kitchen, we're going from one physical location to the next, we're changing roles, changing gears, changing clothes. I think if we capitalized on, gosh, even like 25% of those every day and use them as moments to take a deep breath, to check in with ourselves, to, gosh, scan through our five senses, to just notice what's around us, it's amazing how that is consistent self-care and decluttering on our own time, rather than leaving our brains and bodies to their own devices and letting our internal balloons fill up too much where they pop. And they kind of sabotage those moments when we want to fully be present. And so I really try to hone in on, in order to do this work, like anything, it requires that kind of the basics of being human. But we're beyond, again, just like make sure you're getting this and doing that and that. It's like understand how your inner pleasers and your inner critics are interfering with self-care and how you can capitalize on these general things. It doesn't have to be this big production.
Yes. What do you do for yourself? Because you're doing the book, you've got a practice, you've got a family. It's like you're doing life. How do you get through the stress and the schedule and the busyness?
A non-negotiable I have is a morning workout. And I think where I've learned how to not fall into that all or nothing trap and rigidity trap, because I certainly have had that in the past and kind of those perfectionistic tendencies, is I know I've collected enough data on myself, especially in this phase of life. If I don't work out in the morning, it's probably not going to happen because of all the other things that go into my day. And so my AM bookend is my workout. And here's the thing, I don't have to go hard and ruthless every single day. I give myself that luxury of like, I'm working out regardless, but I'm also going to check in with myself and see what kind of workout I need, or my body is like, yeah, we're up for that. And that's different for me. And so I think like that's a non-negotiable. It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel confident. It makes me check in with myself. And I think that to me is kind of a baseline for my morning. And that's kind of been a staple for me. And I look forward to it. And nobody's up yet. And it's my space. It's my time.
Are you a 5 a.m.er or are you a
5:30 a.m.
I had a feeling. I was like, I think she's probably like a 5, 6, something like that. Okay. Is that your routine? You get up at 5:30?
I get up at like 5:15 and I'm on some sort of the Peloton out running, doing something by 5:30.
And then what time do you go to bed? This is important for people here. I know we're like, well, why are you asking? Because it's important. This is called self-care.
It is. And I'm normally the 9:30, 10-ish type of gal. And this is the thing where I have my own internal conflict is I have two teenagers, right? So they're going to bed a little later normally. And so I have that internal conflict a lot of, okay, am I a good mom if I go to bed before my kid? Am I being a good mom if I'm not present and like there for every need that they may have at 10:05? And so it's like balancing that sometimes and soothing that part of me that's like, nope, you're not being a good mom. Well, you need to go to bed so that you get enough sleep and that you're firing on all cylinders tomorrow. So you can see these internal conflicts.
Yes.
Gosh, we're going through a lot of them throughout the day. And that's so normal. But understanding what both of those parts of you are trying to protect and what they're motivated by. And that's the work that we do to kind of not only take care of ourselves, but show up authentically in relationships and kick the serial fixing habits.
Yes. I am so grateful for the work you're doing in the world. Congratulations on your book.
Thank
So
you.
exciting. And people are like, I love Leah. Where can they find you?
Aw. Yeah, you can find me on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn. I have a website, leahmarone.com. My book is on that as well if you're curious about that. But it comes out 11/11. And pre-orders, you can pre-order it pretty much anywhere. I mean, it's Target, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Bookshop. And yeah, I'd be more than happy if you have questions or comments. I'm more than happy to support and create space.
That's fantastic. And I'm linking the book in the show notes or in the newsletter. So if you're a subscriber of the newsletter, you'll get the link to the book. Go grab it and let's break patterns. Let's break generational patterns so you can feel more centered, calm, peaceful, and content. That's the end of the road for us. We want more confidence. We want to feel like I am get off of this wheel of trying to make everybody happy and step off and hold space for yourself. And then you're going to be able to hold space for other people. So thank you, Leah, so much. I'm so grateful for your time and your heart.
Oh, well, thank you so much for creating space for me.
Congrats again. Thank you so much for listening to the Close the Chapter podcast. My hope is that you took home some actionable steps along with motivation, inspiration, and hope for making sustainable change in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, click the subscribe button to be sure to get the updated episodes every week and share with a friend or a family member. For more information about how to get connected, visit Kristen, Kristen, Boyce, Boice.com. Thanks and have a great day.